Right, we're now live, and Chris is drawing away. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another chat. Welcome. I feel like a host. That's no good. Right, tonight I have with me Ben and Beth from the Bookshop Band, who I first saw play at my local bookshop, Ebb and Flow. I bet it was about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. When there were three of you, actually. Back when there was three of you in the Bookshop Band.
Yeah.
So, and we have Rachel Plummer, whose amazing book, Wayne, has just completely captivated me. We've got Viviane, and whose art I've been chattering about all today with some school children. And of course, we've got Chris. And then there's me. So I thought what I'm interested tonight is in the overlap and the differences between songwriting and poetry. Is a poem a song? Is a song a poem? What differences are there? So I think we'll start off with a song from Beth and Ben. It's a song.
Thanks, Dom. Well, seeing as you've called the event A Shop with Poems In, we thought we would start off the event with our song A Shop with Books In, which, if we're clever, we could try and change to poems as we sing it, but I doubt we are, but maybe your viewers could. But it's a song we wrote quite a few years ago now when we were touring we started touring bookshops, playing songs in bookshops, and we got to meet all these amazing people who run sort of quite quirky and interesting and different bookshops. Every bookshop is completely different, so we wanted to write a song to celebrate that, and we wrote it actually I think for Independent Booksellers Week many years ago. Anyway, so we'll play it for you now to start off tonight, and it's called A Shop with Books In. There's a story waiting inside behind a door as it opens wide, and I wander in hoping to find something, and they tell the stories we know, those we don't are waiting to be held and taken home.
There's a strange man inside,
in a shop with books in.
who knows what I like.
In a shop with books
And
in.
he'll rush with tea to my side.
In a shop with books in.
And a stack of books piled high.
And if I'm lucky enough, there will be lots of stuff that makes me smile inside. In a shop with books in. In a shop with books
Shop with books in.
In a shop with books in. In a shop with books in.
Shop with books in.
In a shop with books in. In a shop with books in.
Shop with books in.
Shelves stacked high fills my eyes. I can't describe. Who knows what you'll find? A lovely lady guides me through. shop with books
Shop
in, a
with
shop with
books
books lost in these pages, lost in these pages, lost in these pages, lost in these pages. I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down. It's so nice watching the illustrations, the
nice.
pictures come. It's so lovely to watch Viviane and Chris.
Yeah.
So we haven't.
It's amazing, isn't it?
We've just been staring at a blank wall for all year, and when we've been playing, and this is lovely to see your reactions as we sing a song to you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And I'm getting the extra pleasure of seeing Viv draw as I draw. You know, it's a lovely sort of double thing going on.
Yeah.
How do you manage to watch that? My goodness.
I was going to say, how can you draw and watch somebody else?
Multitasking, Dom, is what this is.
Beyond
Very
me.
fair.
So,
Uh,
so do you think? So, is all poetry the same as a song, or are all songs poems? Because I think there's a difference here. I don't think necessarily that all poetry can be songs, and I could probably think of some examples where some songs, I don't know whether, I wonder whether they were poems.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible that poems become songs. I was finding this question interesting because I've been part of a writing group just over the last couple of weeks, really, where it's kind of more about I suppose writing poetry, but then maybe kind of taking some of that, what you've written, and writing a song out of it. And I have to say I've had to change things, or things have changed and developed to fit rhythm and different, I suppose it depends what rhythm you choose and things like that.
I think that's a really interesting point. I've done last year and into this year, I was writing about, I think I must have done about 100 songs for a children's YouTube channel. And I found it really difficult because I'm just not musical at all. Even though I love it, I just can't seem to get to grips with learning any kind of instrument, and I certainly can't sing. But I know that when I'm writing a poem, I will hear the rhythm of it and I'll feel the rhythm of it. But for these songs, it was really difficult because they wanted the words and then they would put them to music. And they said, just do it in rhyming couplets. They insisted almost entirely on rhyming couplets, even when I thought, actually, I'd like to do something different here. I'd like, and not fix that kind of structure. And it would have been easier for me to work with a musician to get an idea of the rhythm or the melodies going on, and then go, right, okay, now I can hear what you're doing. I can write to that. And it was.
I suppose that's one of the differences potentially between, with a poem. I guess the poem has a rhythm to it that comes not from some music, but from whoever's speaking it or reading it, the words themselves, the meaning, the way you want to express it. Whereas a song, the lyrics in a song they're not locked in, but they're like there's not only the words are driving the rhythm, but the music, something else external to the words and the meaning necessarily, is providing a rhythmic structure, and potentially, and music has its own structures which also might influence how a rhyme, if you're going to put a rhyme in or something, or how things relate to each other. Like one sentence can relate to another sentence, not necessarily because they're next to each other, but because they have the same riff or they're part of a chorus. And so you bring meaning to a word, and it's inextricably linked to the music as well, and that influences it. So I think
let's test this. Let's test this in real life, as it were. I have with me some lyrics. So we're going to let's just listen to a song read in a slightly portentous, non-musical voice. I'll put on my best poet's voice to read one of my favourite songs by Nick Cave, called Into My Arms. I don't believe in an interventionist God, but I know, darling, that you do. That if I did, I would kneel down and ask him not to intervene when it came to you, not to touch a hair on your head, to leave you as you are. And if he felt he had to direct you, then direct you into my arms. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms. And I don't believe in the existence of angels, but looking at you, I wonder if that's true. But if I did, I would summon them together and ask them to watch over you, to each burn a candle for you, to make bright and clear your path, and to walk like Christ in grace and love and guide you into my arms. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms. And I believe in love, and I know you do too. And I believe in some kind of path that we can walk down, me and you. So keep your candles burning and make her journey bright and pure, that she will keep returning always and evermore into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms, O Lord. Into my arms.
Wow. I love that. And before you started reading it, I could just hear the way Nick Cave sings it. And he's like Leonard Cohen in a way, in that he sings with a speaking voice, doesn't he? So it's kind of easier to translate his words just directly into a poem.
That's true, Dom. He also has that fantastic first line of "I don't believe in an interventionist God," which I think is very hard to turn into a disco beat with Kylie singing. So I think there are certain songs that work better than others.
And it's interesting because it's not to say that poetry can't become music, because that can influence, a completely different rhythm that you wouldn't normally think of, or that you would, can lead something somewhere completely different. I suppose it also depends whether you're writing it or you're using someone else's poetry as well, whether that leads to something else.
I mean, that's your thing, isn't it, with the way you work with novels and with poetry, with Rob McFarlane's poetry as a kind of inspiration then for doing something completely itself and amazing. Sorry, Ben, I talked over you then.
Oh no, not at all. I was just like listening. I don't know the song, to my detriment, and
you will when you hear it.
I will. I hear it. Okay. And actually, it's quite. That's another interesting point. But like listening to those lyrics, listening to those words, which are lyrics, like I, from my perspective as somebody who writes a lot of songs, I felt like he'd written the verses without music necessarily in his head, because it felt very cohesive and poetic, but the way it was structured felt like a song, coming back to a reprise, coming back to something like a chorus there. So it kind of, listening to Chris read those, it kind of, I felt like, whether it's true or not, I had a feeling about how Nick wrote that, and I feel like he might have written the verses, or the first verse at least, as a poem, and then structured it later into a song.
Yeah, and I think the chorus part of that, the "Into My Arms, Oh Lord," is a really interesting departure from, I suppose, regular poetry, whatever that means. But it because I've done a few poems where I've wanted to repeat, have a chorus basically, and I've done it, but at the same time I've thought, is this poetry? Is this where am I going? What's, is this going to sound strange when it's read, even though I know I could perform it? But when you read something in your head, that's a different process as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of this extraordinary relationship that Elton John had with Bernie Taupin, where he would write the music to the lyrics. So the lyrics always came first, and then he would write the music over the top, which seems to be a certain way to do it. I wonder whether Nick Cave possibly did that. I'm interested in experimenting with whether you can put poetry to music, rather than sort of lyrics, then, sort of are almost illustrated in a sense with music. Whether you can take sort of, a Shakespeare sonnet and make that a convincing song, as opposed to spoken word with music.
So
lots of people have done exactly that. You can find some really nice examples of it, and one of my favorite examples of poems that have been then set to music is Edwin Morgan's Beasts of Scotland, which are incredibly beautiful, and they were set to a kind of jazzy kind of music. It's a bit strange, but when I read the poems first, and they have very strong and interesting rhythms. I like poetry that does cool things with rhythm, and his really do, especially those ones. So then it's really interesting to read, to listen to what was done with the music. And I did a project with the Scottish Clarinet Quartet a couple of years ago, where they had a piece of music composed for them that was kind of a sci-fi piece, and then I wrote poetry to go with it, because the music was incredibly experimental, and it had this kind of narrative, but I think they wanted to kind of lift the narrative and make it a bit clearer to people who might be listening. So it had this poetry that kind of told the story that went through it and with it.
Rachel, can I suggest we do an experiment here? Do you have one of your poems to hand?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Viv, you've got your paintbrush fully charged and ready. This is fantastic. Bookshop Band, can you play some improvised music? And I'd just like to give you a little bit of a chance to sort of like set yourself for this. So just to set the mood, what I would like to do is just read this poem, which is a Sylvia Plath poem, which is actually set to music. I found it on YouTube, actually. I love Sylvia Plath, but there's a lovely musical version of this on YouTube, which is worth having a look. So I will read this very briefly. But Rachel, if you could choose a poem, Viv, if you could charge your brush, Bookshop Band, if you can set up ready to start some music. When I finish reading this poem, Rachel, if you could read your poem, Viv and I will illustrate it while the Bookshop Band plays some incidental music behind you.
Would you like to know anything about what it's about first? Because
I think we should just discover.
You just
this.
Okay.
Give us the title, Rachel, so we're ready.
The title is Nessa's Song.
Fantastic. So this is Mad Girl's Love Song by Sylvia Plath. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I lift my lids and all is born again. I think I made you up inside my head. The stars go waltzing out in blue and red. An arbitrary blackness gallops in. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I dreamed that you bewitched me into bed and sung me moonstruck, kissed me quite insane. I think I made you up inside my head. God topples from the sky, hell's fires fade, exit seraphim and Satan's men. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I fancied you'd return the way you said, but I grow old and I forget your name. I think I made you up inside my head. I should have loved a thunderbird instead. At least when spring comes, they roar back again. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I think I made you up inside my head.
Okay, Nessa's song. Can you hear me singing, little human child? Can you hear me singing in the stormy waters wild? Can you hear me singing on a summer evening mild, down in deep Loch Ness? Once I was a woman and I walked upon the land. Once I was a woman and I lived here on the strand. Once I was a woman with my feet upon the sand of deep Loch Ness. Beside high Ben Nevis I sang my songs alone. Beside high Ben Nevis with its crags of gorse and stone. Beside high Ben Nevis where the autumn leaves are blown out to deep Loch Ness. There I loved a goddess and I served her night and day. There I loved a goddess as the sunlight loves the hay. There I loved a goddess and I followed her away, away to deep Loch Ness. Goddess of the water with water blue skin. Goddess of the water, of scale and of fin. Goddess of the water tipped me up and spilled me into deep Loch Ness. Now you'll hear me singing for the love that came before. Now you'll hear me singing from the water's core. Now you'll hear me singing, and I'll sing forevermore, down in deep Loch Ness.
Oh, that was magic.
That was
I love your
Beautiful
beautiful
poem,
pictures.
Rachel. Oh.
Thank you. It was beautiful music and beautiful pictures as well. It's really lovely.
Well, I think if we learn anything tonight, it's that everything's all intertwined in a way we cannot possibly unravel and wouldn't want to.
I was thinking of the water because we were talking so much about rhythm. I teach creative writing to young people, some of them really quite young, and they really love formal poetry, so poetry with a structure, with a rhyme and a rhythm structure. And when I'm teaching rhythm, I always take them out to the river if I can, and we walk beside the river and we think about how the river has many different rhythms, but they're all one cohesive thing still. And we talk about how in a piece of poetry you can have different rhythms, but they still have to be one thing. And as we're walking, I encourage them to say words in the rhythms that they're hearing and in the rhythm of their footsteps out loud until they have a real sense of what all the different rhythms and stresses the words have.
Yeah, there's so many. Go on, sorry.
no, go on, Ben.
Yeah, I'm just nodding in agreement. In like, I guess there's so many kind of rigid structures in music, but I think one of the things we thrive off is when you like quite often people say to us who are quite musically literate, like, oh wow, you had loads of different time signatures in that song, and we'd be like, oh really? I've got no idea, because it's just you kind of write the music that you feel is intuitive for the song, and it might stray out of a normal structure, and you might not realise you're doing it, but it just feels like the cohesive thing to do for that song. To not do that would break out of the space that you're in when you're writing it.
What we've got as you're talking is Viv improvising in exactly that sort of way visually, which is rather wonderful. So I love to see, Viv, the way you were sort of putting on that sort of black wash that is starting to sort of delineate the figure.
Yeah, I'm not quite
in the
sure where she
depths.
is yet.
And it's fantastic, it's sort of developing and changing just as the music did as you read the poem, Rachel.
It's really interesting because my illustrator, Helena Boppert, she's lovely and she does watercolors. And she said that this poem, Nessa Song, was her favorite poem from the whole book. But we asked her to do an illustration, like one of the full page ones for this, and she really struggled with it. So we swapped it to a different one. She said that she really liked the poem, but she struggled to get an illustration for it.
Well, Rachel, you've now got two.
That's lovely. They're wonderful as well. It's so cool. Yeah, it's so rare that in poetry, especially in grown-up poetry, that your poems have pictures. So it's been really nice to see pictures.
We might be on a roll here. Dom, do you have a poem to hand that we might do exactly the same thing with?
I have a poem, but I don't know whether you'll be able to do the same to it, because I read it today for the children in my group. It's a rap, because I was asked. That
sounds perfect.
Well,
are you up for this, Viv?
Yeah.
I was asked the question of because I was talking about poetry, and one child just said, "Is a rap a poem?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, and it was all meant to be about space because their topic was about space. And I said, "Well, I've got a little poem I wrote about a blue whale, and it's called 52 Blue, because this whale sings, it communicates at a frequency of 52 hertz, whereas most whales communicate at 15 to 20. So you've got this really high-pitched kind of whale, and some people speculate whether the whale is actually deaf, but it's certain that no other whale can communicate with it, and so it's often called the loneliest whale. So
and
I will.
Robert McFarland refers to the loneliest whale in his latest book, which is rather wonderful as well.
Oh, right.
And I think he references exactly that whale, Dom. And it's his exploration of the underland, the sort of spaces underground. And this particular whale, his call is picked up, isn't it, by whale listeners, as it were. It sounds wonderful. Bookshop Band, are you ready?
Well, it's not going to be as lyrical as Rob McFarlane. I don't know how you're going to do this, because this is.
Viv, are you ready?
Chris, we actually have an Underland song that we could play later if that was.
Well, that sounds good as well.
Maybe we could riff around it to remind us.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Viv's doing a sort of rap with her drawing implement. Yep, I like it.
Okay, here we go. So it's 52 Blue, the loneliest whale. He's a high-pitched singer, crystal ringer, dancing on his own like a lone gunslinger, firing out beats of what a notation, spinning his song in his own rotation. Big and wide, rocking side to side, taking his groove out for a ride in a musical ocean, blending the notion, swimming the depths in a bliss down the ocean. He's a mover, a groover, a big shrimp hoover, chewing out tunes guaranteed to mover, sombering grace, always a sun-happy smile on his face. 52 Blue, unique not new, dancing to the word that can't be heard. 52 Blue, dancing for himself, not me or you.
Cool.
Very cool.
I think I must have thought up a big shrimp hoover and just decided to write the rest of it around that.
Big Shrimp Hoover's very good. I like that. I is him. Big shrimp Uber. That's nice.
We're creating, I think, art here. This is very exciting.
I think, yeah.
What?
Go on, sorry.
Dom, go.
No,
I
no,
was
go
just
for
going
it.
to say, it's interesting from a musician's point of view. What I found when I'm playing a song that we know, I was really able to watch the art happening. When we were improvising, I think it was a different part of my brain working, and I found it really hard. I was trying to listen to the words, I suppose, of your words, both Rachel and Dom, and I couldn't really concentrate on the artwork as I was doing. I can see it, but I wasn't taking it in. I wasn't absorbing it while I was listening to the words. But so I suppose it's just a observation of different parts of the brain and where you go when you're playing music and different things that you do. Because I know some people who read music can't improvise, and some people who improvise and write music don't read music, and I think it's just two different parts of the brain. Ben, I think our camera might have disappeared.
Yeah.
We're still here somewhere.
Another 50p in the meter.
Yeah, exactly.
Dom, I have to.
Sorry, go on, Rachel.
I was going to say in my in one of my creative writing groups, in the home ed one, the parents pre-COVID, the parents used to stay and join in, and there was one girl that came with her mum, and the mum would always write a rap for everything, no matter what topic it was. Could be Shakespeare, she would always write a rap, and the daughter was always so mortified. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've got a sense of that modification when I perform that, actually, and it's an interesting thing because rap is such it's got its own rhythm so strongly embedded into the words that it's a difficult thing, I suppose, to even do music to. I'm trying to think of famous raps where the music stands on its own, and I'm sure there are great examples, but I can't think of any. It's all about the rhythm of the singer rather than anything else.
Shall we try a rap by W.B. Yeats, a famous rapper from Ireland, known for his bling, I think. Gold jewelry, and I wonder whether we could have some improv music going on behind this. This is the Song of Wandering Angus. This is fantastic. I love it. I just sort of summon up music like this. It's a wonderful treat. The Song of Wandering Angus. I went out to the hazel wood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand, and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing, and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream, and caught a little silver trout. When I laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire aflame, but something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I'm old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone, and kiss her lips and take her hands, and walk among long dappled grass, and pluck till time and times are done, the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun.
I really love the pauses you put between verses there, Chris. Now,
that was fun because of the music, Dom.
Because of the music, exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't normally do that with a regular straight-up poetry performance, would you? Because people would start clapping.
You wouldn't. This is one of the great things. I mean, the first time I ever illustrated poetry live, I worked with Simon Armitage. and we did a lovely rehearsal. I managed to plan my drawings. And then when we came to the actual event, I swear Simon Armitage sped up just to cause me problems. And he read it at double quick time. No pauses. He went straight for it. It was a sort of awkward moment, I've got to say.
Do you think we could have another song, Beth and Ben?
Yeah, I mean, we were wondering, as we've been talking a bit about Underland by Robert Macfarlane, whether that might be a good one to do.
Or Goldfinch, because that's taken some of the poetry into the songs. That could be
Either. A Goldfinch is beautiful, but
well, we could do
I'm
Goldfinch.
curious.
We can do
No, either. Underlay is
Should we do-
also incredible.
I'm sure we can do Underland. I'm sure.
Are you
Do
scared?
both at once.
I'm a bit scared, but I can write. If I just stop playing, it's because I've forgotten what to do. But,
I'm happy with either.
okay.
Has anybody tried to rap Robert Macfarlane's Jackdaw yet?
Oh yes, but only privately.
Yeah, me too.
It's an amazing poem. Really good. And so
Holly,
somebody
haven't,
performed it, and it was amazing.
I haven't tried to rap Robert Macfarlane's Jackdaw, so I'll just try to rap it now. Quite awkward, I would say, and possibly not accepted by the Royal Mail either. So no, definitely.
He would love that.
Definitely not working.
No.
Holly Atkin has an incredibly beautiful Jackdaw poem too, as she talks a lot about like the rhythm of the word, and she has the name in many different dialects, and it has like different rhythms, but you really get to clearly see how the name comes from the sound that it makes, because she has like interspersed with it like some of the sounds that it makes, and she has it like fading in and out of the words, so you can see that all these different names from different regions all sound like that really harsh and distinctive sound that it makes. It's a really good poem.
Wow. Okay.
Rachel,
She has a
I-
beautiful
Did you say it
book.
I
Holly
love that.
Atkin. She has a poem called. She has a book called Basic Nest Architecture, which has got lots of poems about
Wow.
birds. Really beautiful.
Can we make a
Rachel,
list of
I
all
love
these songs
that,
afterwards? 'Cause I need to-
Oh my goodness, yes, I love that idea. But Rachel, I also like the idea of sort of pretending that these things have some sort of folk derivation and just making up your own.
Yeah,
So you could-
that's a lot of fun.
I think you can create a whole lexicon of sort of like modern sort of things that we can pretend are names for jackdaws. Sooty suits, sort of Beaky McBeak. There'll be a whole series we could come up with.
I'm pretty sure that's where the entirety of our culture has come from. People just making up stuff. Parents.
They must have back in the day. Yes.
Yeah.
Round the fire, someone would come up with an idea, and someone would say, "Great, we'll use that."
It's historical.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing I do. Well, should we have a go playing Underland?
Yeah, do you want to give it a go?
Yeah, I'll risk it.
This is for the Lonely Whale.
Yeah.
Hiding from the world around, the little owl sees underground a piece of bronze to weigh me down, a hand above to pull me out. I stumble through the darkest time, deep time. On winds the starless river, lost to our eyes. Crying for the dead, I feel alive. Diving. If you see me weep a million tears, a billion years. From terror to warmth in the twist of a tunnel, a crack in the ice, it could all come tumbling, hiding from the world around. A little owl sees underground, a return and cover the sadness. Sometimes we bury to forget the past. Sometimes we shelter what matters the most. Sometimes we need to block out the ghosts. 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 Billy Willow beyond our time, always leaving light behind. No one to hear you shine. Hiding from the world around, a little Elsie's underground. A piece of bronze to weigh me down, a hand above to pull me out. Hiding from the world around, a little Elsie's underground. A piece of bronze to weigh me down, a hand above to pull me out. Hiding from the world around, a little Elsie's underground. A piece of bronze to weigh me down, a hand above to pull me out. A spring in spring, above the reflection, the brightest sun, the water runs, runs, runs. Leave a mark to tell my children's 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 child. Bury the fear, the fight, so we don't wipe them out. Running through the world around, a little boy sees overground. A fleeting thought to weigh me down, a hand below to pull me out.
Wow, look at those images.
Oh, they're incredible.
Yeah, it's,
That was
Really
beautiful.
was.
You-
I only stopped twice, so it was all right.
Yeah, we haven't
But-
played that for a little bit, but
But the cello is a lovely sound, and it's a lovely sound to sort of draw along to. You know, it's got that sort of resonance to it. And I was sort of thinking as you sang of a sort of, you know, Neolithic burial of some sort, and a sort of, you know, grave goods of who knows. Whereas I can see sort of Viv is developing a wonderful sort of dark, inky sort of underground there with a little owl actually peering out from a sort of nook of an oak.
Yep. Slowly,
And-
slowly.
I
you're-
follow
and you're-
Viv on Instagram, and this is what Viv looks like most mornings.
Covered in ink.
Before
Yes.
before her coffee, she looks a lot. That could be a self-portrait, Viv.
Rachel, do you think you could give us another one of your poems, please?
Sure. Let's see. I've got a couple. I'm not really sure. I've got one about a changeling that's quite musical, or I've got another one that's got. We were talking about. Yeah, maybe I'll go with this one. You know, we were talking about poems that have a kind of musical structure to them, like ones with a chorus, or well, this is like a call and response kind of thing. About the Blue Men of the Minch. Do we know about the Blue Men of the Minch?
No.
Obviously, I know all about them, Rachel. But for the others, could you explain?
Well, they they are storm kelpie, storm spirits that live in the sea, a little bit like kind of a Scottish answer to sirens. They lure sailors and then create storms and would sink their ships in the Minch, in the sea between like the north of Scotland and the islands. And they're quite interesting for poets, because there are some stories that the leader of the Blue Men would quote or would say a couple of lines of poetry to you, and if the captain of the ship was quick thinking and could respond with 2 good response lines, then the Blue Man might be impressed enough to let the ship pass safely. So I've imagined the conversation in poetry in couplets between them. So this is the Blue Men of the Minch. Sea captain, what brings you here to the rough waters out beyond Skye? Storm kelpie, stirring the sea, we are bound for the islands nearby. Sea captain, handsome and brave, come dance in the water with me. Storm kelpie, blue as an eye, I would drown in your storm-roughened sea. Sea captain, be not afraid, I will bear you up out of the tide. Storm kelpie, many have danced in your arms, and each of them died. Sea captain, those are the souls that live with me under the waves. Storm kelpie, I do not wish to join you with them in their graves. Sea captain, come take my hand and play shinty with me on the foam. Storm kelpie, night gathers near, and my ship must return to its home. Sea captain, I know a home for your ship on the deep sea's bed. Storm kelpie, only on land will I lay down my sea-weary head. Sea captain, could you not love me and live with me here in the blue? Storm kelpie, well could I love, but I cannot remain here with you. Sea captain, then I must raise up a strong wind to set you free. Know you will find me out here on the Minch if you ever return to the sea.
Wow, that's absolutely beautiful. And like you say, so filled with music without music. That was beautiful, Rachel. That really was.
Thank you. I really like to read it with somebody else when I'm reading it. Like at a reading, I often ask one of the other poets or something to read it with me and do one of the voices.
Oh.
We should have planned that in advance, Dom.
We should have planned that in advance, yeah, definitely. Rehearsal.
Siren.
That's what we need.
I can see you, Rachel, as a Kelpie, with all due respect, and Dom, a sea captain.
Yeah, I would lay money that he already has the hat.
I'm saying absolutely nothing about my hat collection. My extensive hat collection.
It's true what you said about it feeling like it's got music in it, because it demands that quite rhythmical structure that kind of a song would fit. You know, it has a beat, it has a tempo, it has a groove about it, which is in the way you perform it, which sounds musical without needing music necessarily to sound musical when it's in the way it comes across. Yeah,
and I think there's something about folklore, isn't there, which is even made up folklore like Lord of the Rings, which obviously inspired Led Zeppelin.
It's not made up.
No, it's not made up.
How dare you?
Yes, how dare you? Misty Mountain Hop and all. But there's something about folklore, and that seeps into us as music, and the I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because, I mean, Rachel touched on this earlier. It's connected with everything else. It's connected with the land and who we are, and sometimes it's easy to lose touch with that sense of ourselves. And I think that's what poetry and music can kind of remind us of who we are and where we're from, because I think that's a really important part. I can see Chris has got a poem up.
Another request, Dom, if I may,
Yeah.
for the Bookshop Band. This is from The Tempest. The Isle is Full of Noises, and I would love to invite the Bookshop Band to create some noises based on The Tempest.
Noises, great.
Do some noises. Could get the harmonium, but it's a bit out of tune, but that could be interesting. Or no, or glockenspiel.
Whatever you think. Yeah, I don't know.
And Viv, could you summon up your very
I'll get
best
some
Caliban?
Okay.
Ben's
Is
just
Ben-
finding some noise. He's just in the noise box. Finding
I thought it was in the getting the Christmas decorations out.
Can
Already
your
done
Christmas decorations do this?
They will tomorrow. I'm going to make sure of it.
This is actually my first instrument. This.
It's a bit broke. It's a bit cracked. Beautiful, man.
Thanks.
The Isle is Full of Noises, from The Tempest. Be not afeard, the isle is full of noises, sounds and sweet airs that give delight and hurt not. Sometimes 1,000 twangling instruments will hum about mine ears, and sometime voices that, if I then had waked after long sleep, will make me sleep again. And then, in dreaming, the clouds, methought, would open and show riches ready to drop upon me, that when I waked, I cried to dream again. Oh, wonderful. I got to see Viv draw then, Dom, which was a real treat.
It is a treat. It is. Wow, that's fantastic. Right, we've got about 5 minutes remaining of our evening. So I'm going to read a little poem. It's a very short one, but it kind of popped into my head. It's quite an old one, this, and I wrote it when I was thinking about my Leap Hair Leap book. So when I was researching it, and the reason I thought of it was because of what Rachel said about the old words for different things. And it's called Mountain Hare, this one, and it's about a mountain hare, which is a surprise. Right. Morkin, make hair gil, mountain hare. The shape winter takes in spring, melting into the cracks where the cold still clings. The leap from the lee, ahead of the fox's shadow, as fire chases ice. The mittened fist, hiding the surprise of snow. far too short for you there, Viv, isn't it?
Beautiful.
I was I just ended up watching Chris and going, "Oh, you've done it already. That's fine. That's as well on hand."
But Viv, you've got that lovely Japanese, like, sort of brush pen action going on, which I think is perfect for poetry.
Sometimes.
Do we have time? Do we have time for another Rachel poem?
Yeah, of course.
I see you have a cat there, Rachel.
I did. She was meowing so loudly that I thought you might be able to hear her because she wants to be. She's not used to being shut out of any room.
I just need to warn you.
I
need to warn you, Rachel, that Viv really doesn't like cats.
Oh,
So
sorry.
you'll be upsetting Viv there. Notorious.
That's
notorious.
sarcasm.
It's just being a sod. It's fine.
I think we need some music with this one as well. So
Yeah, what's the? Give us a steer.
Okay. It's about the changeling story. So the changeling stories are stories of children that are taken and swapped with a fairy child. And I've made this a little bit about found family, or I've tried to. So it's called Changeling. Okay, shall I start?
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay.
They're swapping instruments.
It's just a short one. Changeling. A little drop of laughter, a little drop of whiskey-o, and iron for the fireplace where the emerald embers glow. A dance for you, my darling. A dance for you, my Joe. A set of pipes for music, and a dancing we will go. I came here from another land. Yes, I was born a fairy-o, but I put on a human skin when I came here long ago. A little drop of sunlight, a little drop of snow, and rainfall from the river where the magic waters flow. So take my hand, my darling. Take my hand, my dearie-o, and we will live together in the land of rook and crow. Now, sing a song for family, and sing it sweet and low. I travelled far to find the only family I know, for love will reach beneath your skin to hold the heart below.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, those are such gorgeous, gorgeous pictures. Look at that.
I love it, Rachel, when a poem sets up a mood and then just slightly changes towards the end. So you get a sort of hint of a narrative at the end to see where it's going. So,
thank you. I was trying with all of the poems to not tell the story, but just put some of the feeling of the story in.
I think that's where songs, my closing thought, Dom, where songs and poems, I think, come together, I suppose lyric poetry, but also sort of great songwriting, does exactly what Rachel's just said. It sort of distills, I think, moods and moments and ideas, often sort of quite complex narratives, but not in some linear prose way, but just it sort of traces down, I think, feelings, and that's where the power comes from. And I've just said that in a very wordy way and used far too many words, and I think a poet would distill that into, I think, a rather good song lyric.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like when we respond to a book, for example, I think what someone who listens to the song might get from the book, even though the book is 10 hours long to read and our song might be 3 minutes, or something, they'll understand an emotion that we felt when we were reading that book. And I think that's kind of what the song, that's what, I guess what we try and capture in the song is how we felt about the book, what that emotion was. And
not almost not intentionally, but that's just what comes out because you have that in there, and like it's coming from you as well, but it's also you've got some inspiration to let whatever it is out into a song.
It's like looking at the illustrations and seeing what you're drawing from the poems or the songs, and seeing that in real time happen, and that's the same kind of thing. You kind of get a sense about how you're hearing things, which is really interesting through images.
I'm enough of a poet to know I cannot top any of that, because that's just put everything so beautifully. Right, thank you to everybody. I'm going to end the broadcast now. I'll just say to anybody watching this live or later on catch up on BBC Two, and it's all, please support the Bookshop Band, Viviane, Rachel, and Chris. You know, their work is just incredible, and which is why I love chatting to them. And tonight has been amazing. So get in touch with them, tell them that they're wonderful, and buy things from them, because they're really superb. Right, thank you all. And
Thanks, Dom.
Thank you.
I'll end the broadcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.